passage is talking about, Naphash, what it truly means to be refreshed, what it truly takes to be refreshed. All right. So I'm not gonna waste no time. I'm gonna go right into it. So the title of today's lesson is "To Be Refreshed." Naphash. All right. So, Naphash, it means to take breath, refresh oneself, all right? To breathe, passively to be breathed upon, figuratively refreshed, as if by a current of air, refresh cells, all right? So, since we're in this time of refreshing, and we just left atonement, and we just got through, ripping our garments and putting on the clean garments and all different kind of things, there should be newness in us. We should be continuously being made new each and every day throughout this week. There should be a refreshing in us throughout this week.
Go ahead.
All right. So we should be able to take a breath. We should be able to take a breath. All right. So Naphash is only used 3 times.
3 times. That's right.
3 times. And like Maury always say, if something's only used a couple times, that means you need to pay close attention.
Pay attention.
Pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go into some of the places that this word is used in. We're going to do some investigating on what it means to truly take a breath, what it truly means to be refreshed. All right. We're going to look at it. So let's go to 2 Samuel 16. We're going to read 5 through 14. Right. 2 Samuel. When you get there, say hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
2 Samuel 16. Starting at verse 5. All right. And it says, and when King David came to Bahurim, behold, thence came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gerah. He came forth and cursed still as he came. And he cast stones at David, and at all the servants of King David. And all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. And thus said Shimei, when he cursed, come out, thou bloody man, and thou man of Belial. The Lord hath returned upon thee all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose stead thou hast reigned, and the Lord hath delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom, thy son. And behold, thou art taken to thy mischief, because thou art a bloody man. Then said Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, unto the king, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over, I pray thee, and take off his head. And the king said, what have I to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah? So let him curse, because the Lord hath said unto him, curse David. Who shall then say, wherefore hast thou done so? And David said to Abishai and to all his servants, behold, my son, which came forth of my bowels, seeketh my life. How much more now may this Benjamite do it? Let him alone, and let him curse, for the Lord hath bidden him. It may be that the Lord will look on mine affliction, and that the Lord will requite good for his cursing this day. And as David and his men went by the way, Shimei went along on the hillside over against him, and cursed as he went, and threw stones at him, and cast dust. And the king and all the people that were with him came weary and refreshed themselves there. So in verse 14, you see that that were refreshed. It's right there. It says Naphash. I ain't put it up in the PowerPoint, but it says Naphash. Take a breath. All right. So in verses 5 through 10, we see that David is very weak at this point. He's at a low point. He has lost his fire. How many times throughout the cycles do we lose our fire?
Go ahead. ahead, son. Go ahead.
We go all year, you know, and throughout the whole year, you know, as time goes on, we tend to lose our fire.
Go ahead.
We get to a point where it's like, I can't take it anymore. Like, I tap out. Right? We went through Passover and Pentecost and, you know, unleavened bread and, you know, atonement, and all the way to this point. And it's just still, it's just tired. There's just a lot gone, you know. And to be honest, that's what the molding is for. We have these different checkpoints to be replenished. But for some reason, we come and go through these seasons and we still get more and more tired.
That's right.
We lose more and more fire. So David at this point is very broken. He realizes the fruit of his sin have brought him to this point. So that's our problem. What we do is, as time goes on, we stack sin upon sin, upon sin, upon sin, and we wonder why we lose our fire.
Tell the truth.
Because we're continuously stacking up sin upon sin, and then we go into Moedim, we don't even go into Moedim right.
Correct.
And we wonder why we leave the same way we came in.
Go ahead. Start cooking. Start cooking.
So, we have to understand what we need to do to keep that fire, to get our fire back, to be refueled. All right? We got to stop getting to this place where we go the whole year, and just like at the end, just like nothing, no fire. It's gone. It's left us. You know, you have to do better. So, but yet in this situation, though, you see a beautiful picture of submission. When you read in the later verses, when David allows the man to go and curse, go ahead, curse. It's all right. You see that David, even in his brokenness, he's willing to do Yah's will. I'm not going to go away from Yah's will. I'm going to do Yah's will, even in his lowness, even in his brokenness.
Yep.
All right. So this picture shows true commitment to follow Yah's will to be done. Being brought to a place of brokenness is often necessary to getting new life and to being refueled with new breath. So a lot of times, we need to be broken down in order to have that new life. We need to be broken down. Because we go about, you know, doing our job, you know, dealing with family and just dealing with all kinds of stuff. We just kind of be just going through the motion.
Right.
Sometimes we need to be broken all the way down. We need to just stop and go to the source. That way we can be refreshed.
Absolutely.
And that's what these times are for. To stop and be refreshed. Because we need new breath. We can't breathe. We can't breathe. All right, so in verse 12, I thought this was good. It said, it may be that the Lord will look on mine affliction, that the Lord will quick good for his cursing this day. So David knew that, you know, following Yah's will is what he needed to do for the Father to take care of him. Our problem is we think that we can refuel ourselves.
Yeah. Say that.
Our problem is we think we can refuel ourselves.
Tell the truth.
We try to move forward without allowing the Father to fix our brokenness.
Come on now.
And we wonder why we're stagnant.
Come on.
Because we try to move forward,
Real.
well, our leg broke. Like, you can't move. You need to be fixed.
All right.
So that is our problem. We don't allow our brokenness to be healed. And this is why we lose the fire. And this is why we're so inconsistent. Because we try to look to fix things ourselves. And so then let's go to verse 14. It says, and the king and all the people that were with him came weary and refreshed themselves there. All right. And so when you read through it, you see that, you know, David, so, yeah, so Abishai and the servants, they're like, man, when you do something to this man try to curse him, man. But David is like, to be. It's all right. Let it go. And so, what I got from that, like in verses 13 and 14, is in refusing to cling to the throne, David was like Yeshua, denying himself and being obedient unto death. That kind of picture of being obedient and having a mind of Christ and being a man after Yah's own heart. Being a man after Yah's own heart. All right. David wasn't looking, you know, he wasn't thinking about himself in the situation. He was thinking about his father. He was thinking about the father in the situation. And so we need to be a people that, even in our brokenness, that our mind is always stayed on the Father's will at all times. At all times. You can't get to a point of lowliness to where, you know, when we're broken, we go to other vices. And we try to fix things ourselves, and we try to say things ourselves, and we try to use our own counsel, use our own thoughts, and use our own ways to try to fix stuff and to try to alleviate pain. But we can't alleviate anything if we're not staying according to Yah's will. So that even though even in his lowliness, when he kind of lost his fire, he still was obedient, and he wanted to follow Yah's will completely. Completely. So let's go to Philippians 2. Lori would read Philippians 2, 4 through 8.
Hello, mic check. Philippians, 2nd chapter, 4 through 8. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Mashiach, Yahshua.
Okay, so the mind of Mashiach is not putting yourself first.
Okay.
You have to put Yah first at all times.
That's right.
Even in lowliness, even in brokenness,
Yep.
even when the fire is kind of gone,
Yep.
we still need to be thinking on Yah
Yep.
to be refreshed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We cannot move forward if we're not in Yah's will
Yeah.
at all times.
That's right.
No matter what mindset you're in, whether you're super happy or you're super low, you're feeling bad, feeling tired, no matter what it is, you have to stay aligned with Yah's will at all times. You cannot wait, because then you'll stay in that sunken place.
Mm.
Go ahead.
Who being in the form of Elohim, thought it not robbery to be equal with Elohim, but made himself of no reputation, and took upon him the form of a servant, and was made in the likeness of men. And being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself, and became obedient unto death, even the death of the cross.
All right, so we have to take on the mind of Christ in order to be refreshed. You have to be obedient unto death. You have to be men after Yah's own heart. And our problem is we don't like to humble ourselves. In order to be obedient unto death, in order to be obedient even in even in our lowness, we have to humble ourselves. A lot of times we get low and we still operate in our pride.
Yes.
We broken, but then we don't even know we broken. We addicts, but then we want to lie to ourselves and say, no, I ain't no addict.
Right.
That's what we do. And then we stay low. And then we don't have no fire. There ain't no way to get refreshed. All right, so now let's go to Acts 13, 21 through 22. Acts 13, 21 through 22. And Isaiah, go ahead and read that for us.
Acts 13, 21 through 22.
Yes, sir.
And afterward they desired a king. And Yah gave unto them Saul, the son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, by the space of 40 years. And when he had removed him, he raised up unto them David to be their king, to whom also he gave testimony and said, I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after mine own heart, which shall fulfill my will.
Okay, so in order to be a man after Yah's own heart, you have to fulfill his will. So are we men and women after Yah's own heart? Or are we adding our own will in his will, acting like it's his will? Which one is it? Are we being completely compliant to him? Or are we trying to add and take away stuff to appease our own feelings? Which one are we doing? Because if you're doing that, you can't be refreshed. You have to be a man after Yah's own heart. You have to fulfill his will at all times, no matter what it is in our own logic. We have to fulfill his will. Understand that he will sustain, he will refresh, and he will exalt in due time. So obedience. Obedience. You have to be obedient at all times.
That's right.
Obedient at all times. Gotta have the mind of Christ. Gotta have the mind of Christ and be obedient. Because Christ is obedient unto death. And we are to be like Christ. Right?
Yes.
Right. So, are we in Yah's will, or are we adding our own stuff, acting like it is his will? So in the picture it says God's will, knowing, being, and doing. So, we have to know Yah's word. Right?
Yes.
We have to continuously know his word. We have to know him. We have to allow him to be in us. And we have to do in order to be in his will.
Yes.
Know, be, and do. This is what we have to do to be in his will. All right? But we have to do, though, we have to be doers. Not just hearers of the word, we have to be doers of the word.
That's right.
Be a doer. We do a lot of talking, but we don't like to do a lot of doing. Right?
That's right.
A lot of times, we get to praying, we get to fasting, we do certain things, but we don't put forth action behind it, and we wonder why it's taking so long to get to certain points in our life.
That's right. Empty work.
A lot of empty work. This is why in 2nd Baruch it said that Moses did more in his 120 years than Adam did in his 930. A lot of empty work. Wasting time. Not being a doer.
Right.
That's not Yah's will. Yah's will is for you to follow him through and through, no matter what. But we waste a lot of time because when we get low, when we get broken, we don't go to him immediately.
Come on. Tell the truth.
This is why time goes on, years go past, and you wonder why it's taking you so long to get to certain places. You're wasting time. Do Yah's will. Be like David. In his lowliness, he still wanted to fulfill Yah's will,
Yes.
regardless. So we have to know, be, and do. Right?
Yeah.
So now, over the last couple of days, we've talked about this time being the time that we're entering into the marriage supper, getting married, back to the Father, Yeshua being the bridegroom. And so during this time, in order to be, so we have to be, so we are being prepared for a permanent house. This time right here, we're being prepared for a more permanent house. All right, so we have to continuously be refreshed every single day, day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out, so that we can be prepared to enter into an everlasting house. Right?
Yeah.
An everlasting house. All right? So now, let's go to 1 Corinthians 11 and 3. Can you Yahuah read 1 Corinthians 11 and 3 for us? 1
Corinthians 11:3.
Yes, ma'am.
First Corinthians 11:3. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is man, and the head of Christ is Elohim. Is that right?
Yeah, go ahead. And so, I just want to bring that up because if we're going to be getting married, right, we're supposed to be brides, right?
Yeah.
That means Christ needs to be our head. But if we're not in God's will, then he's not our head, then how are we going to get married? Right? How are we going to get married?
Tell the truth.
If he's not our head,
Come on.
right? Just like me, want to marry Chris, and it's like Chris, like I don't, I'm married, but I want to do my own thing, I don't really want to be a partner with you. I want to have my own account. I want to do this, and this, and this, and this. I don't really want to do certain things. But we get married, though. You know what I'm gonna say? No. No. I ain't doing that. And so, why would it be different with us and the Father? Like, why would it be different?
Right.
Like, we have to make sure that Christ is our head, in order to be married.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we are on one accord, that we are equally yoked with Mashiach. We have to be equally yoked with Mashiach, all right? If we think we're going to get married, all right? So during this time, in order to be ready for the more permanent house, you must be completely refreshed. You must be completely refreshed, all right? So now, let's go to John 7, 37, 38. John 7, 37, 38. And I'll read this one. Say hallelujah when you get there.
Hallelujah.
Right, it says, in the last day, that great day of the feast, Yeshua stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believe on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. So as we are running on fumes and are super tired, we need to get some substance to replenish us. All right, we have to go to the source.
Yeah.
Right, we can't let our brokenness stay broke. We have to go to the source and get the living water we need in order to continue to move forward. But if we don't do that, then we will stay in the sunken place. All right. So let's go to Isaiah 58, 8 through 11. And Yahuah, can you read that for me, sir? Isaiah 58, 8 through 11.
Isaiah 58, verses 8 through 11. Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of Yah shall be thy reward. Then shall thou call, and Yah shall answer, and shall cry, and he shall say, Here I am. If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke, the putting forth of the finger, and the speaking vanity, and if thou draw out thy soul to hunger, and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as the noonday. And Yah shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose water fail not.
All right, so we have to be holy in lowliness. Because that is the most difficult time to be holy at. When you're at your lowest point. That's how Yah tests us. He brings us down just to see if we're going to follow his will or not. Are we going to continue in his will, or are we going to go our own way? So being holy in lowliness is important. We have to be holy in lowliness, because that will please Yah. And he will replenish us when we're holy in our lowliness. He'll replenish us for doing that for him.
Yeah.
for not quitting, for not giving up. Even in our lowliness, he'll continue to replenish us if we stay on par. But if in our lowliness we want to complain and murmur and nag and do our own stuff, he'll throw it to the side. But we have to be holy in lowliness. So then that brings to the point that selfishness brings true peace and prosperity. I mean, selflessness, not selfishness. My bad. Don't crop that out. So selflessness brings true peace and prosperity. Nobody wants to marry someone that's selfish. Nobody. So to get fresh breath, we have to stop suffocating ourselves. Stop suffocating yourself. Stop stopping yourself from getting healing. Let go. And let Yah have his way in you.
Go ahead.
Hallelujah.
But our problem is we keep suffocating ourselves. We make stuff so hard for ourselves. Because when things get difficult, we make stuff harder. Because we complain, we get angry.
Yep.
You know, we get mad, we get sad, and we act like we don't know what to do. As much as we read this book, we should know what we should be doing when those times come. But time and time again, we refuse to go to the source. We refuse to get lifted up. And we suffocate ourselves constantly. So we need fresh breath. We need fresh breath. All right, so now I'm going to go to the next chapter that has the word Naphash in it. We'll go to Exodus 31. Let's go to Exodus 31. Break this one up. I'm going to read the whole. Matter of fact, I'll read that. Okay. Great. So when you get there, say hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right. So Exodus 31, it says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, See, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. And I have filled him with the spirit of Elohim in wisdom, and in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of timber, to work in all manner of workmanship. And I, behold, I have given with him Elohim, the son of Asamach, of the tribe of Dan, and in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted. I have put wisdom that they may make all that I have commanded thee. The tabernacle of the congregation, and the ark of the testimony, and the mercy seat that is thereupon, and all the furniture of the tabernacle, and the table and his furniture, and the pure candlestick with all his furniture, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all his furniture, and the laver and his foot, and the clothes of service, and the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to minister in the priest's office, and the anointing oil and sweet incense for the holy place, according to all that I have commanded thee shall they do." All right, let's see. "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak thou also unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily, my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that ye may know that I am Yahuah that doth sanctify you. Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defileth it shall surely be put to death. For whosoever doth any work therein, that soul shall be cut off from amongst his people. 6 days may work be done, but in the seventh is the Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whosoever doth any work in the Sabbath day, he shall surely be put to death. Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations. For a perpetual covenant, it is a sign between me and thee, the children of Israel, forever. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. All right. So When I was reading this, to me it showed a picture of the children of Israel dwelling in an everlasting house and being refreshed. Because when you see the first portion of this chapter, you see that they're working on the tabernacle. They're working on the tabernacle. And then it goes into, you know, the Most High is declaring them to rest and to keep the Sabbath and how, and things of that nature. So it showed me a picture of the children of Israel dwelling in the everlasting house and being refreshed. All right? And so, of course, Shabbat simply means to rest. It shows that Yah rested from his labors. And so, and then it says in verse 17 that for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth. On the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. All right, so that word right there, of course, is Naphash. Naphash, right there again. So in this sense, Naphash implies that a gentle breeze of the breath of Yah was invigorated after a job well done. So that means we need to be laboring for Yah. That way he can give us that final breath of a job well done.
Yes. Hallelujah.
We have to finish Yah's work.
Yes, sir.
That way we can have everlasting rest
Hallelujah.
and dwell in an everlasting place.
Hallelujah.
And so that's big.
Yes.
That's big. So we should be working hard for Yah all year for this moment. We are here for a reason.
Yes.
We have made it here for a reason.
Hallelujah.
All year we should be building Yah's tabernacle. We should be working on his tabernacle all year. That way, at this point, now we can dwell with him, and he can refresh us. He can refresh us completely.
Hallelujah.
So all year we need to be working,
Yes.
laboring for Yah. All year, labor for him.
Yes.
Labor for him.
Labor.
That way, when it's all said and done, he gives that fresh breath of a job well done.
Hallelujah.
You're complete now. You've been building.
Come on now.
So now you're complete. You've been building for my kingdom.
That's right.
You didn't cease from this labor.
That's right.
From my labor.
There you go.
So I'm going to breathe into you. Job well done. Job well done.
Thank you, Lord.
All right, so now let's go to Exodus 23. Yes. Now I'm gonna break this one up. Can you read Exodus 23, 1 through 12? And then can you read 13 through, let's see, just read 13 through the rest.
Okay.
Okay.
You talking to me?
What you said. Go ahead, son.
Exodus
23.
Exodus 23. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Thou shalt not follow multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Neither shalt thou countenance a poor man in his a poor man in his cause. If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him. If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee lying under his burden and would forbear to help him, you shall surely help with him. You shall not wrest the judgment of thy poor in his cause. Keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and righteous slay thou not, for I will justify the wicked. For I will not justify the wicked. And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise, and perverteth the words of the righteous. Also thou shalt not oppress a stranger, for ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. In 6 years shall thou sow thy land, and shall gather in the fruits thereof. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave, the beasts of the field shall eat. In like manner thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard. 6 days shall you do thy work, and on the 7th day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thine ass may rest, and the son of thy handmaid and thy stranger may be refreshed.
Okay, pause right there. So as Yah is completing you and constantly blowing fresh breath into you, are you being a refreshment to others?
Hallelujah. That's right. That's good. That's
As we're building Yah's spiritual house, as we're going through the whole year laboring for him, as he's refreshing us throughout our different checkpoints and throughout this time, as he's building us up, we should be doing the same thing for others. And that way other people can be in that rest and be refreshed as well. Yah wishes every man be refreshed. He wants everybody to be a part of the spiritual house. So we need to be a part of the people that's bringing refreshment to other people. But how you going to be refreshment to other people if you're always going against Yah's will all the time? You're always doing your fire all the time. You're never consistent. How you going to be refreshing to other people? How you going to let other people get rest, be refreshed? If you're not refreshed, if you're not resting, your fire always gone. How we gonna grow? How we gonna bring refreshment? How we gonna help people to take a breath? We can't take a breath. We holding our breath. We expect other people to take a breath. We holding our breath. So like I said, remember, selflessness brings peace. Yeshua is a healer, and if he is dwelling in you and replenishing you, others can also get that fresh breath and be replenished also.
Yeah.
Right?
And in all things that I have said unto you, be ye circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither will it be heard out of thy mouth. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month Avad, for in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in the labors out of the field. 3 times in a year, all thy males shall appear before the Lord God. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The first of the first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thine adversaries. For my angel shall go before thee, and bring thee in into the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites. I will cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to other gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them, and quite break down their images. Ye shall serve Yahuah Elohim, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water. I will take sickness away from the midst of thee. There shall nothing cast their young, nor be barren in thy land. The number of thy days I will fulfill. I will send my fear before thee. I will destroy all the people to whom thou shalt come. I will make all thine enemies turn their backs unto thee. And I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, the Hittite from before thee. And I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. By little and little I will drive them out from before thee, until thou hast increased and inherit the land. And I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea, even unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and thou shalt drive them out before thee. Thou shalt not make no covenant with them, nor their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee.
Hallelujah. So, Yah is always looking to gather his people and refresh. He's looking to gather and to refresh. All right? But we have to want it. We have to want to be refreshed. All right? We have to want to be refreshed. We have to truly want it. Right? So, replenishing comes after obedience. You cannot be replenished. You cannot be refreshed Unless we're first obedient. So if we're obedient to Yah's word, if we're obedient to his will, if we're truly Shemai, right, then he will refresh us. But it takes obedience first. We can't be refreshed if we're not willing to be obedient to the Father. All right? He's looking for us to gather. He's looking to gather. He's looking to refresh. He wants to refresh. He wants to bless.
Yes.
That's what he wants to do.
Yes.
But a lot of times we refuse his blessing. For whatever reason, generational curses from the iniquity that's woven into our DNA, we refuse his blessing at times. You know, so if we truly want to be replenished, if we truly want to be refreshed, we have to be obedient to his word. You have to be obedient to his word. All right, so now, all right, so this was interesting. So we got Naphash. So this word uses the same root as Naphash. So take a wild guess of what word has the same letters as Naphash, but it's slightly different. Naphash. Amen.
Which means so, right?
Which means so, yes ma'am. So. All right. So, Naphash, soul, self, life, creature, person, appetite, mind, living being, desire, emotion, passion, all that. Living being, with life in the blood, all that. You know. So. All right. So, Naphash, probably a breathing creature, animal, a vitality used very widely in a literal, accommodated, or figurative sense. All right. So, when I correlated these two words, I also got that refreshing brings life. Refreshing brings life. Yah's breath is life. Yah's breath is life.
Okay.
So now let's go to Genesis 2 and 7. Wrap it up.
Don't cook, Robert.
Genesis 2 and 7. There's a hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And it says, the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul, a living nephesh. So Adam wasn't complete until Yah refreshed him and blew into him. So Yah's breath is life.
Absolutely.
Right now we are in dead vessels. We are not where we need to be right now. We don't necessarily have that final just breath of life like that yet.
Yeah.
We're not in that form yet. Because Adam, when he blew that breath, Adam was complete. He was complete. So just as Yah breathed, just as Yah's breath give us life into his creation, the same breath will continue to sustain and refresh us until that day that all of the people he calls his own will be delivered in his eternal purpose. All right? So, we have to complete Yah's work. We have to labor for Yah. That way, when it's all said and done, he breathes that final well done breath, we're complete. But we cannot be complete if we're not laboring for Yah, if we're not building up his house, if we're not laboring all year for him. That way we can have our fire back. That way we can be replenished, be restored. That way these dry bones can live.
Say that.
They will not live if we refuse to follow his will in our lowliness. We have to understand that, understand as human beings, as the year goes on, we're going to stack up sin. We're going to stack up, different things that we shouldn't be stacking up. And it's going to weigh us down. But when that happens, we don't give up. we don't let the devil win the battle. He may win some rounds. This is a 12-round battle. And by the end of the fight, when it's all said and done, we look at the scorecard,
Yeah.
we should win.
Hallelujah.
So when we get to this point, tabernacle, we need to truly press in. We need to truly go to the Father. Because I know a lot of us, I raise my hand, very low, very low. Fire just about gone. But I realize I need to go to the source. That way he gives me my fire back. I'm not going to let the fact that I don't have as much fire as I used to defeat me. I'm not going to let that bring me down. I'm going to continue in my lowliness, go to the source. No matter what. No matter what. So we have to continuously do that. We have to continuously fight. 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 And understand that, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So throughout this marathon, we need to go to the source to be refreshed. That way, when it's all said and done, and our bodies go back to dust, he breathe that breath, and then we're complete. That's what he desires. He wants to be refreshed and complete. He wants to be living beings. He wants to be like how he made Adam.
Come on.
He wants to be living. He wants to be dead no more. Right? We need to be living. All right. So, Shalom, Mishpachah. That's it. I'm done.